You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Networks Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for April 29th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where, surprise, one more episode before we take a short break. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. And we got to keep it a little shorter than usual today. So we're going to pick two and only two stories to talk about, and then wish you all fair winds and following seas until next week.
Yes, I'm taking the rest of the week off for a mental health break and knitting trip.
Yeah.
Of course, knitting is involved.
I'm not invited.
And Driftglass will be taking care of the cats.
Yeah.
But he will also be on the Bob Cesca show. Prepare for some Star Trek content, I have a feeling.
Oh, I hope so.
And the Bradcast also has asked you to be there on Wednesday.
Yeah, less Star Trek content there, I think.
Less Star Trek content with Digby. Yeah. You never know.
You never know. Digby contains multitudes. What do you,
right.
Who knows?
So lots and lots of Driftglass content this week.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And yeah, next week we'll be back Tuesdays and Thursdays as we always are. So I just got to go do a knitting thing. So I'm going to go do a knitting thing.
Got to go knitting. Sometimes you just got to go knitting.
Sometimes you just got to go knitting.
Yeah. Yeah. Or to save guard the life and safety of others, you have to go knitting.
My pointy sticks.
Yeah.
What's the phrase I told you the other day? A day without knitting is, I don't have no idea.
Yeah. You have so many pointy sticks made from so many different materials.
I really do.
Like bamboo to carbon monofilament to, I don't know, adamantium.
I do. I have some carbon monofilament knitting needles. Yeah. I do.
All right. So, as you all recall, since you're all loyal listeners, last week we told you the story of a Chicago area attorney who tried to change his luck by changing his name.
There's some good news.
Just believe me, I already know.
Oh, good. Then if you want to come with me to the office, there's some paperwork for you to sign.
Absolutely. Let's do this thing. Oh, and sweetheart, I'm going to need one more form. DBA, because I'm not going to be practicing under the name McGill, so.
Shouldn't be a problem. Just down the hall, we have all the forms.
Great.
Wait, Jimmy, what?
It's all good, man.
No, we're not talking about slipping Jimmy McGill becoming Saul Goodman. We talked about how a defeated Will County Republican judicial candidate named Philip Spiewak changed his name to Shannon O'Malley and then went and registered himself as a Democrat and then got himself elected to the Cook County Circuit Court in 2018 and then lost that job in 2024 after he failed to receive enough votes to be retained as a judge. Welcome to Cook County, Chicago politics. This happened more than you would think.
Yep.
Candidates who were like cutouts for the incumbent to deliberately knock votes out of their opponent. And they were all named Pat Ryan or somebody O'Malley or somebody. It's a venerable tradition.
In Alabama, it's in quotation marks, Bubba as the middle name.
Yeah, got to have one. Got to have a nickname. The number of fine local people who are not in any way connected to the Irish community who send us postcards right around St. Patrick's Day, festooned with clovers, with green clovers to remind us that they don't hate us, so we should vote for them. This week, we're going to dip into our how it started and how it's going file to tell you a different Chicago political story about a changing of the guard. And you might know something about this. This is not about J.B. Pritzker. It's not about Dick Durbin. This is about a lesser-known politician, but it has resonance throughout the entire party. But first,
right, it does. Yeah.
Let me tell you some fun facts about where I used to live. I used to live in Illinois 9th Congressional District. It covers 3 different counties, Cook County, Lake, and McHenry. Not all of everything, but pieces of each. And a lot of suburbs, a lot of wealthy suburbs. Evanston's in there. I think Barrington's in there. A lot of wealthy northern suburbs. Second, as I mentioned, I lived there off and on in the 9th for many years. And Jan Shakowsky...
Not in the wealthy suburbs.
No. I would drive up there occasionally when they would have... they had the nicest garbage days up there. They would have like reserve days when they put stuff out for the poors
Yeah.
By the poor, we mean
Yeah.
Chicago residents.
And you would go curb diving. Yeah.
And everybody
Yeah.
did. This was not a secret. This was not a thing that was done in the dark of night. This was a thing that happened. I also had dinner with RFK Jr. and
oh my God.
yeah, the daughter of a newscaster, Roger Mudd. His daughter lived up there, and through a series of connections, I knew somebody who knew somebody. So I'm sitting there having dinner with long before RFK Jr. lost his fucking mind, and it was a strange experience to be among that many people with that much money, but I comported myself well. I stole some silver. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I pocketed some of the good stuff. But my congressperson for most of that time was Jan Shakowsky, who was always very reliable, progressive vote. Third, it's one of the most reliably Democratic districts in Chicago and really in all of Illinois. It has been in Democratic hands without interruption since 1949. And for all but 6 years since 1935. That was the previous century, people. The previous
90
century.
years in
90
Democratic
years.
hands overall. Yeah.
That dates to the time of a guy named Al Capone, roughly the time of Al Capone. So barring like a meteor strike or something like that, there is virtually no chance that a Democratic primary challenge would end up accidentally flipping that district. And fourth, when Jan Shakowsky was first elected to the House in 1998, after 8 years as a state legislator, would you ever guess in a million years that her primary challenger, the one she beat in the primary, was a guy named J.B. Pritzker?
Holy crap.
Yeah. So he's been around politics for a while.
So consider that when you hear this from Punchbowl from March 27th, 2025. Quote, what Shakowsky's challenger says about the longtime Illinois Democrat. Long time, and they really seem to need to say long time a lot. Longtime Representative Jan Shakowsky, Democrat of Illinois, could get a run for her money in a race against 26-year-old progressive social media influencer who just launched a bid for the Chicago area seat. Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, a former staffer for Media Matters for America with a large online following, said she's running on a platform that aims to make far-left ideas like universal child care and expanding the country's social safety net the norm for Democrats. The first-time political candidate also wants to challenge Democrats to be more aggressive against President Donald Trump and isn't afraid of criticizing leadership when necessary. Quote, Trump is just destroying our country. And while a lot of Democrats seem to agree with that, not all of them are standing up to it, Kat told us. But it's not just about Trump not being in power. It's also about having a vision beyond that, and one that's just bigger than the status quo circa 2005 or 2012. This is the latest example of younger, more progressive candidates seeking to topple the Democratic Party's seniority system. Kat is running a non-traditional campaign, focusing on online reach, grassroots activism, and small dollar donations. In a surprising move, Kat says she's not planning to use cable TV ads, which has traditionally been the most prominent way to reach large swaths of voters. And to Kat's credit, she's swiftly bringing in campaign cash and increasing her following by the thousands. Since she launched her campaign this week, Kat said she's already raised more than $200,000. The 80-year-old Shakowsky, who has represented Illinois' 9th District since 1999, hasn't announced her intention to run for re-election. But Shakowsky did acknowledge her experience serving the district and Kat's new ties to the Chicago area. Kat moved to the Windy City just last year and doesn't yet live in the 9th District. She's barely landed in the Chicago area, Shakowsky told us of the challenger. I've spent many, many years, decades in the district, and have a very, very good relationship with the people who are there.
I can vouch for that.
Yep, you can vouch for that, exactly. At his weekly news conference, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called Shakowsky a longstanding stalwart progressive member, but acknowledged there's a lot of anxiety in the country when asked about the potential primary. Meanwhile, Kat isn't afraid to hit Democratic leadership where they stand now. Kat described Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's handling of the recent government funding bill as cowardly, while criticizing Jeffries for how he dealt with members' behavior during Trump's address to Congress. If your leadership means chastising the people that stood out against that, that's not leadership. That is appeasement, Kat said. This is a moment that people like Hakeem Jeffries need to meet, or they can step aside for someone who will, unquote.
1 month later, from Shaw Local News Network, April 22nd, 2025, quote, political newcomer outraised U.S. Representative Shakowsky in 9th District last quarter. As Democratic U.S. Representative Jan Shakowsky of Evanston decides whether to seek a 15th term in 2026, a political newcomer already is campaigning for her 9th District seat and creating national buzz. Fellow Democrat Kat Abu-Ghazali, a 26-year-old internet personality and former journalist who's lived in Illinois less than a year, received significantly more financial support in her campaign's first week than Shakowsky did in the entire first quarter of 2025, federal records show, unquote. And so, 1 day later, from Politico, April 23rd, Representative Jan Shakowsky is planning to announce next month she won't seek re-election after 14 terms in the House, and has started informing allies of her retirement decision, according to 2 people granted anonymity to describe the private conversations. This was not done on a Signal chat. This was just done among friends. So,
right.
No national security laws, rules, and protocols were violated. The veteran Illinois Democrat, AD, confirmed in a statement that an announcement is forthcoming, though she would not say what that would entail. I'm going to announce my plans on May 5th. Stay tuned, she said. Shakowsky's annual Ultimate Women's Power Lunch is set for that date in Chicago. After this report was initially published, Shakowsky issued a second statement. Never a good idea.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that. Just let it lie. Just let it lie. Insisting she had not yet made a decision. I will make that decision in the coming weeks and announce on May 5th. A longtime leader of the Progressive Bloc in Congress, Shakowsky has been on retirement watch for months. She is already facing a long-shot primary challenge from influencer Kat Abu-Ghazali, but the competition for the deep blue seat that includes part of Chicago and some northern suburbs is likely to be among the more established Illinois Democrats. State Senator Laura Fine and Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss are widely expected to enter the race after Shakowsky makes her plans public, unquote.
So that's, let's talk about that for just a minute.
Sure, welcome to the future.
Shakowsky is on fire all the time. I mean, she's
great.
I said to you, well, if she retires from Congress, she can go run Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely, yeah. No.
You know, she's on the right side of every issue. She's about 3 feet tall, and she's just a fireball. She just is.
She is. And she goes all over Illinois raising money. She was down here raising money for other Democrats.
Yeah. Raising money for Democratic House people 3 times. I mean, it took 3 different candidates to get this district down here flipped.
And a redrawn district.
They had to fine-tune the redrawing of the district. They tried a couple times. And that's what Jan Shakowsky said to me personally. I think we can win this one.
Yeah, she's right.
But then we didn't. And so,
eventually,
they redrew it again, and it is totally gerrymandered, and that is totally unfair. And as soon as Republicans decide to get rid of gerrymandering, we'll do it.
Cool. Down with that.
But this district, there are too many Democrats downstate who want a Democratic representative, and so they drew it. So it's so funny.
Yeah.
If you know anything about geography, it goes all the way from Bloomington all the way down to East St. Louis, which is like I-55.
Yeah.
And it's like 3 miles on either side of I-55, and that's where all of the colleges are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they gerrymandered it to get educated city dwellers from Bloomington and Springfield and East St. Louis into a district. And now we have Nikki Budzinski, Illinois 13.
Who's just fine.
Who is exactly what we want.
Yeah, for this district.
What?
For this district.
For this district, what we want is a competent backbencher.
Right.
Who will send out emails about the farm bill.
Right.
And she's a union gal.
Exactly.
And but I got to tell you, in the age of Trump, even Nikki Budzinski is sending out emails with a swear in them.
I know. She did a
hell
swear.
No, she says.
She said, that's down here, hell is the word fuck. I mean,
hell is the word fuck down here.
They're brutal. It's a brutal takedown.
She said a swear in her email?
Or in the yellow font, all caps language of Midas touch. She destroyed them.
Destroyed them. Yeah.
But this is, And this is how, this is what happens when you don't have an aristocracy, is you have a succession crisis every time someone steps out of office.
Right.
And you don't want to sacrifice a seat when you are out of power, and you need every seat to count. So, and Jan Schakowsky's career arc has been pretty good. I mean, she's stepping out probably 2 years too late, but not too late because of her competence. But it's time for new people to take over.
It's time for new people. And this is why, what David Hogg is doing, which is flat out saying, no, we're going to primary old people.
Right.
Because but the problem is they won't retire. That's the problem. It's not that David Hogg is some insurgent who's causing trouble.
No, they just won't retire. They won't.
It's time for 80-year-olds. And I'm 61. I would love to retire today, but
that'd be great.
Do it.
That'd be great. Well,
And
I understand the sort of old Roman, I guess it was, idea, an old American idea, founding father idea, that you do your thing, you run your farm, you have your military career, you do whatever. Then the elders of the tribe ascend to a position of governing authority. And then they leave after a little while. They don't rule over a country like
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah,
I want to get back to my farm, and that's it. Yeah.
And I understand those
and
days.
And my slaves. I haven't forgotten.
Yeah,
my slaves, yes.
Let's not forget. But those days are over.
Yeah, it's a full-time job. It really is, yeah.
And you don't have citizen Congress people who just want to go in, do their thing, and come out, because that's not the way things get done anymore, which is a shame, because that would be great.
Yes,
but it isn't that way anymore. So
if we had actual campaign finance reform, and lowered the entry level, but we might have a much crazier Congress than we already do.
Yeah.
Although I think having actual campaign finance reform would remove the grifters.
Yeah.
If you actually said no insider trading, and if we find that you've done it, we'll put you in jail.
Well, I'll tell you what. While we're on break, this is just a little break for a few days.
Yeah.
I will go antiquing, looking for a genie lamp to rub, to wish for campaign finance reform, since that's the only way that's going to happen. Yeah. Sadly, that's it. It really does come down to what's the world you actually live in, not the world you wish to live in. The world you wish to live in is where you should be aiming. The world you actually live in is where Jan Schakowsky should not retire because she's incompetent or slow or has done anything wrong. It is simply because she has done her bit for king and country, and it's time for her to go do something else now and let someone else take that seat.
Right. And I don't think her years of activism are over.
No, of course not. No. Yeah. It's in her blood, and good on her, and she's welcome to be on our podcast anytime she wants to be.
Anytime she wants.
Yeah.
We love her.
Yeah, she's great. She's just great.
All right. So we got to talk about Donald Trump. Sorry. But
money in politics, right? Money in politics. And he stepped on my, bailiwick. Yeah, he's on your corner.
He's on my corner now, talking about ActBlue, when WinRed is a personal slush fund for him.
Yep.
And speaking of institutional congressional Democrats, I want to express my extreme disappointment in Senator Chris Murphy on one item. And it might not be his fault, although everything's his fault as far as emails that come out with his name on them. He's a great fighter for our causes most of the time. And I like that he's been out there fighting. But in a recent fundraising email that I got, he and his team seriously fucked up. Here's what he said, just 3 paragraphs from his, of course, very long send me money email. Donald Trump is directing the Department of Justice to launch a sham investigation to lay the groundwork to take down Democrats' primary fundraising platform. He and the right-wing ecosystem have been signaling for months that they want to take ActBlue offline. Not because of fraud or foreign interference or whatever other conspiracies they peddle to justify this. All that's good. But then he said, if that were the case, this action would have equally targeted WinRed, the Republican equivalent, which follows the same structure as ActBlue. No, it doesn't.
No.
Ask Blue Gal about WinRed.
Blue Gal knows.
She has a speech prepared.
Blue Gal knows some shit. Ask her about autism.
Ask her about autism.
Healthcare. Ask her about knitting. Ask her about politics. And if you really want to sit back and just let it wash over you and do a whole TED talk, ask her about WinRed.
Ask me about WinRed, because I'm on fire about WinRed and how they operate.
I'm getting you a T-shirt for Mother's Day.
So
that says,
unfair.
Ask me about WinRed.
It's unfair to my fellow Americans how WinRed treats Republican voters.
Yeah.
And I am all about consumer protection and not letting consumers get ripped off. And I don't care if they're Republican or not, or whoever they are. When a consumer gets ripped off, I get mad.
Right. She does.
And I've been writing about WinRed for a very long time, but I went and found the article I wrote about WinRed for Crooks and Liars in June of 2020.
Wait a minute. Are you remembering stuff?
Yes, I'm remembering stuff.
Oh, that's not fair.
Yeah.
That's just not fair.
Now, this was written on the occasion of then House Speaker Kevin McCarthy flip-flopping on his barely registered resistance to the Trump candidacy on Tuesday, June 21st of 2023. He was still House Speaker at that point. Mm-hmm. And Kevin told CNBC that while Trump could win a 2024 election, Kevin was not sure Trump was the strongest candidate. And let's not forget, there were other candidates in the race at that point.
Yeah.
So he was pretty much saying, I'm not going to put my finger on the scale because there's primaries going on, right?
And I don't want Trump to come for me. Because if he comes for me, I'll end up on a meat hook in a ice house
that's
somewhere.
what happened.
Yep.
By Thursday, June 23rd, 2 days later, Kevin had done an about-face. Of course Trump is the bestest candidate. And I wrote, why, Kevin? Why? I think, and this is speculation on my part, it has to do with Trump's control of the MAGA donor list, and also perhaps the GOP fundraising stream. Kevin McCarthy is held on a very short leash by Jared Kushner's father-in-law. What's his power over WinRed, and what about the MAGA donor lists? Who gets those and when? This is more than just, I can't let the Republican base get mad at me. This is about Kevin McCarthy's job, which is electing Republican House members. Forget about the presidential race. Kevin McCarthy's job is to fundraise and get money and raise money and get Republicans elected to the House. And so Kevin McCarthy's livelihood and his caucus's ability to raise money to get reelected and to get elected is totally tied up in WinRed, because House Republicans are required to use WinRed for their online fundraising. It's not an option. They're required to use it, and they're very upset about that.
It's the Trump hotel of fundraising.
It's the Trump. You have to stay there, and you can never leave. And I surmised in my article that Trump has all the red cards in the deck.
Uh-huh.
Consider these verified facts. Republican fundraising is done almost exclusively via the for-profit platform WinRed, set up by Jared Kushner during the first Trump administration. This caused contention with Ronna Romney McDaniel. And I want to be very clear about where I have evidence about the rift between Jared Kushner and Ronna Romney McDaniel. I have this information from a Fox News link quoting a book by the Wall Street Journal's Michael Bender. So this is 6 Degrees of Rupert Murdoch that I'm getting this from. Bender, in his book, claimed that McDaniel viewed the WinRed deal as a legacy project that could benefit the party for years to come. Keeping the new company as a nonprofit, which is what ActBlue is, she told Jared Kushner would make sure it remained as an arm of the RNC. Bender alleged that Jared wasn't interested. And then Jared said, I don't give a fuck about the future of the Republican Party. Imagine saying that when you're talking about online fundraising for House Republicans. I don't give a fuck about the future of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
He told Ronna inside the hotel meeting room. Good to know, Ronna shot back. I will be running for chair for a second term, and I will make sure you don't come anywhere near this.
Whoops.
Ups. You know who won that fight? Jared Kushner won that fight. Where's Jared Kushner? Nobody knows. He took his $2 billion from the Saudi royal family and whatever he got out of setting up WinRed, and we don't know. We don't know where the money goes in WinRed, and that's what I want to talk about next. WinRed is a for-profit company, does not reveal who profits or who writes off the losses from their organization. They may not be a profitable company. We don't know. They don't release financials. Unlike their Democratic counterpart, ActBlue, and this is why I get so mad at Chris Murphy and other lazy people who say, oh, well, ActBlue, WinRed, they're the same. They're just different parties. No, they're not. WinRed does not ask donors up front for tips to support their infrastructure and staff. Instead, they take a percentage off the top of every donation from the Republican campaigns using the platform. And Republicans are required to use the platform. So it is guaranteed money every donation. So if I give money to AOC or Lizzie Warren or Nikki Budzinski, which I do, $5 a month to Nikki Budzinski right now. Mm-hmm. That's the entirety of my congressional donations, by the way. Full disclosure.
That's the whole fund right there.
That's it. I don't have any more money to give. So $5 a month to my Democratic congresswoman, that's it. Okay. But if I give $5 to Nikki Budzinski, she gets $5.
Right.
And when ActBlue asks me, do you want to give an extra $1 that will go to us so we can pay our people, so we can run our computers, so we can continue? And you can say no.
Blue gal?
No, I just want to give to Nikki, and I don't have any more money to give to ActBlue right now. Okay? Or you can say yes. You have a choice.
Remember in the old days on your tax form, it would ask you if you would like to give $1 to the president.
It's now $3, and they still ask. They still ask, and I say no now.
They don't take it off the top.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And I used to say yes all the time back in the days of Jimmy Carter.
Yep.
But I don't anymore because they got to do campaign finance reform first. But anyway, so Nikki Budzinski gets all $5 that I give her. If a Republican gives to Marjorie Taylor Greene $5, she gets $4 and change, and the rest goes to WinRed. And they don't necessarily disclose that.
Exactly.
That's what happens. And you can imagine Republican House members who are required to use this platform being pissed off because they're not getting the money that people are donating. Small donors especially are donating to them. So this has caused understandable complaints and whining from Republican candidates who never get the full amount intended from any online donation. Meanwhile, again, WinRed will not open its books to any investigation, and they actually sued to prevent state attorneys general from investigating their fundraising techniques. Now, they have lost in court as the Eighth Circuit has ruled that federal campaign finance laws do not bar states from enforcing their own consumer protection laws. Hello?
Yeah, consumer protection.
That's the point. If you're not disclosing where the money's going when you're asking for money, you may be violating the consumer protection laws of a certain state. Okay. Remember when Donald Trump's campaign benefited from the opt-out tiny check boxes on WinRed's platform? This was in the 2020 campaign in October. They started doing this, September or October. And they had a tiny checkbox of, your donation is going to be weekly or monthly. And if you don't want it to be weekly or monthly, check this tiny little box.
Yeah. Way at the bottom. And so Donald Trump started getting, instead of getting what was intended as a one-time $50 donation, he got $50 a week from that guy. To infinity until the person noticed and called and said, stop, and I want my money back. Right.
Many Trump donors were charged monthly or even weekly for donations they intended to give once. The Trump campaign, I thought, when I talked to Hal Sparks about this a year later, I thought it was $12 million he had to return. It was $122 million he had to refund after the 2020 campaign.
That he stole from
But he had $122 million extra dollars in the fall of 2020 when his campaign was screwing around and not raising money. The payments, according to the New York fucking Times, essentially functioned as an interest-free loan from Trump's donors to his campaign, which faced upheaval and financial turmoil in the months leading up to the November 3rd election. Eventually, tens of millions of donations were refunded throughout 2020, with WinRed pocketing the transaction fees. The Times said they do not refund what they scrape off the top.
Right, that's theirs.
That comes from the campaign. It's like tariffs. Who pays it? The campaign pays it. Now, that transaction money, where did Jared Kushner arrange for that pocketed transaction fee money to go?
Right.
Nobody knows except Jared and WinRed leadership and Donald Trump. But wait, there's more. Since it was organized in January 2029, WinRed has processed over $2.8 billion in earmarked contributions and over $212 million in contribution refunds. And like I said, WinRed keeps its fee even if a contribution is later refunded. Based on this tremendous volume and churning of financial activity, WinRed has earned, by a conservative estimate, at least $114 million in fee-based revenue. This is back in 2023.
Yeah.
Not counting 2024 election at all. This just burns me. During the same period, however, WinRed has reported spending less than $2,700 on operating expenditure. Not $27 million, $2,700. So, paid our mortgage for a couple months. And that's all they did. Only $2,700 out of $114 million. That's it.
Some servers, some internet access,
we bought chips for everybody at the office.
Pizza and porn.
They also report $243,000 in debt to its affiliate company, WinRed Technical Services, for unpaid legal consulting and insurance fees. WinRed has never made a payment on the debt to WTS. These paltry figures, says the Times, cannot possibly reflect the committee's actual operating expenses. Duh.
Although not paying your debt, now you know it's a Trump company.
Now you know it's a Trump company. Exactly. Well, and it's a debt to yourself. Because whoever is running WinRed Technical Services, that's an LLC to do, money laundering, right? I mean, something's going on there. So this means WinRed is either blatantly failing to report its operating expenditures or is failing to report in-kind contributions in the form of free goods and services that it's receiving from its vendors. Now, when candidates or political action committees receive free or discounted services, they have to report the value of the services as a contribution from or an expenditure to the service provider. That's how we found out about Marjorie Taylor Greene's car.
That's right.
Because she bought a $96,000 SUV. Her campaign bought it. It's in her driveway. She hauls it out for parades and I guess uses it to drive to Washington. But it's her car. But the campaign bought it for her. Okay. And she had to report that expenditure. That's how we know about it. Okay. In the meantime, Republican office holders are furious. WinRed wants to raise the prices. Well, they want to scrape more money off the top.
They have to because of tariffs, right?
Tariffs, right.
They have no choice.
In a series of private meetings, this is back in 2023, Garrett Lansing, the president of WinRed, has told the leaders of the Republican National Committee, the House and Senate campaign arms, and former President Donald J. Trump's campaign that WinRed's prices needed to go up. The Republican officials all objected. Mr. Lansing's pursuit of outside investors to expand WinRed's digital footprint and offerings. Now, mind you, he is looking for investors, but he is not selling stock. If he went public with this company and sold stock, he'd have to report expenditures.
Yeah.
He'd have to do financials, and he's not doing that. He's just looking for sugar daddies to come in and put in money in WinRed, okay? Including talks with advisors to Paul Singer, a major Republican financier, has spurred further discussions about the company's ownership structure. It's owned by Donald Trump and MAGA. That's who owns it. We don't know where the money goes, but we kind of have an idea. Okay. I guess we can't trust SCOTUS to rule against WinRed if Paul Singer is involved. Because he's a sugar daddy to several Supreme Court justices as well. Don't even talk to me about the half Republican Federal Election Commission.
No.
Squat. So now, today, in 2025, Donald Trump is accusing ActBlue of that which he is guilty, which is the old Nazi trick.
Yep.
And Donald Trump has been reelected, and Kevin McCarthy has lost his job. So all this is moot. Trump will get his VIG from WinRed no matter what. You think Mike Johnson is going to raise a stink about WinRed profits? Make me laugh. Come on.
He wants to keep his job.
Yeah. Now, WinRed at this point is small coin compared to what Trump is grifting off his crypto scam. And then there's rigging the stock market by flicking his tariff on-off switch. And I also want to say that one of the reasons that Donald Trump is so vehement about we won in 2020 is that Stop the Steal was his most successful grift.
Yes. Yes.
He raised money so fast from that he needs that high.
Yeah.
And insisting to everyone that they change history and say he won justifies Stop the Steal money.
By making it part of your job interview.
Right.
To get a job anywhere in the administration.
In his orbit. Yeah. You must agree that the Stop the Steal money that I raised is legitimate.
Because the 2020 election was rigged.
Rigged and stolen. Yep.
Right. Die with the lie.
That's the psychology there. That's why he's so freaked out when anyone suggests he didn't. Is that he was a tremendous success as a fundraiser with Stop the Steal.
As a grifter, he was
as a grifter. It worked.
Yep.
So just remember, it's the corruption, stupid, with everything Trump does.
Yeah.
And this ActBlue quote unquote investigation that will be, on Fox. It's a show for Fox, and it is simply accusing ActBlue of what WinRed has been doing since 2019.
Right out in the open where Blue Gal could see it the whole time.
And I could go on for another 45 minutes.
But we're keeping this one short.
We're keeping this one short, but we love you guys.
Love you. And there are the three pillars of going after Trump that everyone is trying to sort of make into one thing. And you don't really need to. One is, oh my God, he's fucking up the economy.
Yep.
And you get all the farmers who voted for him 3 times, who got screwed over by him, who got bribed by him. Now, like, what happened?
I was just telling you before we went on the air that UPS is laying off 20,000 people because tariffs are not going to mean shipments.
Right.
Of Amazon stuff or Target stuff. I mean, whatever it is, it's not coming off the boats from China, then it's not going to get mailed.
Right. So whatever's in the supply pipeline now will arrive, maybe, but that's it. So in a few weeks, what's bad today is going to be so much worse. And there's going to be so many people wandering the streets wondering, when did we get rich? What was the rich part? I thought we were all going to get rich. And the farmers will be leading the parade, and I will be out in front waving my dick in their face going, we fucking told you, we fucking told you. Number 2 is this quaint idea of defending democracy, which our governor did a barn burner of a speech.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday or the day before.
In New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire. So there's no doubt about geography. He knows where he's at. So yes, the Jan Shakowsky's primary Democratic opponent from 1998 has made good finally.
Oh, thank God.
He has finally come of age politically. And there was a great cry out there in the world for people to stand up and defend democracy, period. And all that comes from that, the rule of law and due process and freedom of speech and freedom of education and freedom from fear, all of Roosevelt's 4 freedoms.
Yeah.
And there's one vector there. But the third one is the corruption. There's the sheer staggering amount of money.
And this is Chris Murphy's argument too.
Right.
Chris Murphy's his platform is based on Donald Trump being so corrupt every day.
And please don't try to convince your MAGA friends of the latter two, because your MAGA friends don't give a shit about the Constitution, and they never did. And your MAGA friends don't give a shit that Donald Trump's corrupt. He's making out like they would if they were in the White House. He's ripping off people. Good for him. He's getting rich. We all should get rich. The government's corrupt. The one that might work for them is, and when the economy hits the shitter hard, that's when you come out with your Do you
when
miss
you
me,
lose your
flags?
job and your business and you can't get parts for your car and you try to shop for toys for Christmas for your kids and the shelves are empty because 80% of the toys in this country are made in China. 80%.
Yeah. Oh, a whole bunch of stuff. And the whole, I remember seeing a long list, and it's going to be very unpleasant. I do remember I think it was the Enron documentary. Do you remember Enron, Blue Gal?
I do.
When all of those relatively well-off or extremely well-off
Libertarian Enron employees, right?
who had large houses and large cars and blonde wives and were doing just fine, suddenly had to go to the unemployment office. Mm-hmm. And they started getting very Karen over there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what do I pay you people for? Get me a goddamn job. And the person behind the desk is, dude. And then it's a scene from the Albert Brooks movie about America.
Yeah.
Looking for America, going to America. I forget the title.
Coming to America. Yeah.
No,
not Coming to America. That's Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. Lost in America. That's it.
Lost in America. That's it.
Where he's looking for that job in a small Arizona town. You know, the $50,000 job. And the guy's got a little file box, and then you see him as a crossing guard. Mm-hmm, and that's it. Because the people who have all this anger and all this relative privilege and who think, you know, fuck the government, screw the government does nothing for me. When they start showing up at an unemployment line and find out, oh, this is the government runs this, the government pays for this, and it's all been cut because you were stupid enough to vote for this asshole. Yeah. That's when we have to remind them that we are in the lifeboat burning business.
Yes.
Because one thing we all agree on the left is they cannot be allowed, if at all possible, within our power, to forget what they just did. They forgot Bush.
Or to forgive themselves. Yes. Yeah. We do not forgive.
No.
They can try to forgive themselves and pretend they're washed in the blood of Jesus Christ.
And they will. No.
God is a black woman.
Yeah.
And you're
this
fucked.
Is not.
Yeah.
And we, between us, have seen this memory wipe too many times. And all the same people get off the hook. And I'm talking about people all the way up into the tippy top of the op-ed page of the New York Times.
Right.
Who all get off the hook for their bad behavior or their negligence or their incompetence or their willingness to just refuse to stare what's happening in the face. So that's the future. In the present, I would like to say hello there, dear listener. We are genuinely grateful you make the Pro-Left podcast, this podcast right here, part of your twice-a-week routine. We know you're a good liberal. So, like us, you probably have 1,500 4-month-old celebrity Substacks piling up in your email inbox. All of them are 4 to 5 months old, asking you for money, forcing you to bypass their ads. You know, tap that
subscription button, right?
Not the subscription button. You tap on through the 3 minutes of ads for beds and bed frames and socks and so forth that are at the front of everybody's stuff today. And then you subscribe every day. This is piling up in your inbox every day. But we're just that little bodega on the corner that's been here for 15 years. You know, no matter how the neighborhood changes, no matter how many big businesses throw up right and left and then go out of business, because a whole lot of podcasts have come and gone since we've been in business, we still serve the best sandwiches in town. So come on. Creating this podcast actually takes time and energy, and yes, some financial resources too. We do not scrape. We can't scrape like WinRed. We can't grift people and pretend we're something other than we are. If you find value in our show, consider supporting us with whatever works for your budget. Visit proleftpod.com/proleftpod.com and click the donate button. It takes less than 2 minutes. Or become a Patreon at patreon.com/proleftpod for as little as $5 a month. So yes, we're not the new kids on the block. We're not the flashy people who worked for the Washington Post 2 minutes ago and calling you all stupid 2 minutes ago. We've been in this game for 20 years as bloggers and 15 years as podcasters. And we're going to be here tomorrow and the next day serving the same delicious sandwiches that you all enjoy. Your support allows us to continue bringing you the content you tune in for, and we appreciate it more than you know.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And feel free to write to both of us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com. That email goes to both of us, and we love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go Postal Unions! Letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
Please share our show on social media. That's something you can do that doesn't cost a thing. And if you love this podcast, please try to get someone else to listen to it too. And you do. We do get letters all the time saying, I heard about you from such and such. I heard about you from Cesca. A friend of mine turned me on to you. My kid turned me on to you, and I really like what you do. So that it works. It works organically. We get a lot of listeners that way, and thank you so much very much for doing that.
And by the way, again, Driftglass is going to be on Cesca and the Bradcast on Wednesday.
Tomorrow.
And I'm going to be on a knitting retreat.
Tomorrow. So I have to get
it's tomorrow. That's right.
Yeah, I have to get my 15 hours of beauty sleep because I cannot appear on a podcast looking like this.
Looking like this has to get moisturized.
Yeah, I gotta get a solid 18 or I'm no good.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, interestingly enough, the Internet Kitties are starting their own fundraising platform called TreatBlue, which, unlike WinRed, they're completely transparent about where the profits go directly into their mouth holes with zero refunds, which is not true. There's almost zero refunds, but you wouldn't want them anyway.
No, if they cough up, some of those donations, you don't want to see that.
No, that's a job for 2 paper towels and 1 wet paper towel. So, yeah. Love you, darling.
Love you too. Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy your knitting break.
I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Driftglass will see you tomorrow on Cesca and Bradcast.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.